Oh, well, he'll be all right. You know why? Because sometimes you got to be the hero that they need, not the one they deserve right now. All right, folks, just bear with me for 1 second here. We're actually gonna get started very soon. Just having to do some particulars out the way, mainly sharing. So bear with me for a second. Yeah, hit it, rockapella. I don't know what that song. You ever heard that song? You remember that song, Thomas? Carmen. Where in the world is Carmen San Diego?
Yeah.
I don't know why that PBS song is stuck in my head. Ooh, doopa doopa, ooh, doopa doopa, ooh.
It was pretty good.
Really? But it was just well, what they call themselves, hit rockapella.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that group? What happened?
They thought that it would be a springboard off of that with the kids and
Well, it did.
kids didn't have that kind of clout back in the 80s.
Well, it really kind of did for the longest part.
It kind of did, but not really.
Kind of did, but not
Like,
really.
If that shit would have popped off now, shit, Rockefeller would actually probably be up there right now to make some real cheese. But back in the 80s, shit, there wasn't no parents listening to their damn kids.
It's true. But let's go ahead and get this started, guys. So, all right, let's go ahead and get this rocking. Today's date, January 18, 2020, and I keep on wanting to do Barbara Walters. Barbara, thank you for watching me this far. Barbara Walters reference. But anyway, welcome to How the Frack We Got Here. Usually on How the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week, including politics, local U.S. news, try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host and most, Will Buchanan, and of course, with me somewhere in the back there is Thomas Reed, or as we call him, the Mountain Puncher, who is with me today. And before we do get started, this is an adult podcast, which means things of adult language may be said and things of a sometimes graphic nature may be shown, so viewer discretion is advised. For everybody that's watching, welcome. Let's go ahead and get into it because, of course, Dorito, if you don't know who I'm talking about, I mean Dorito, because I'm talking about our current president, Trump, who is now actually gearing up for his impeachment trial. As I did speak about in the previous podcast, that the articles of impeachment have been sent to the Senate, and the impeachment trial is beginning. And in the middle of this, Trump has decided to beef up his defense team with some surprising characters.
President Trump's legal team revealed tonight, including two well-known names who often appear on cable news. Here's Terry Moran.
Finally, after weeks of indecision, sources say President Trump has settled on a team to represent him at his Senate impeachment trial. And it includes a couple of big names. Ken Starr, the former independent counsel whose investigation into President Bill Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky triggered Clinton's impeachment, and high-profile Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz. Both men have been frequent and vocal defenders of the president on Fox News.
They would be abusing their power if they impeached President Trump on this record.
It is a lesson, and a nasty lesson, in how not to do impeachment.
Both men also represented convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, who committed suicide last year, helping to negotiate a lenient sentence for Epstein in 2008. Dershowitz also helped to defend O.J. Simpson. Already, and not surprisingly, there's confusion on the Trump team. Dershowitz, who will handle the constitutional issues surrounding impeachment, today telling Dan Abrams he's not really on the president's team.
I will be there for, 1 hour, basically, presenting my argument, but I'm not a full-fledged member of the defense team in any realistic sense of that term.
As for Starr, after the Clinton impeachment, Donald Trump had this to say about him.
I think Ken Starr is a lunatic. I really think that Ken Starr is a disaster.
Starr and Dershowitz join a defense team led by White House counsel Pat Cipollone and President Trump's personal lawyer Jay Sekulow.
So let's get to Terry Moran. He's live at the White House for us tonight. And Terry.
So yes, for all those who were born before 1995, the name Ken Starr should sound very familiar to you, considering the fact that Ken Starr was a special investigator for the Clinton impeachment. Back then when Republicans thought it was completely immoral for a guy to get head in the White House that wasn't his wife and lied about it. And apparently that's a impeachable offense. So fast forward to 2020, and now we're now seeing Trump being indicted on 2 charges of course, abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. So It is interesting to see that now Kenneth Starr has been brought to the Trump defense team. You would think, for the simple fact of the matter, is what he said about Ken Starr long ago would make you think differently about him bringing him onto his defense team. It's kind of like the Red Skull joining S.H.I.E.L.D. when S.H.I.E.L.D. was actually formed to fight the Red Skull. All those that get the Marvel reference. But for the simple fact of the matter is, again, this is interesting how Trump now is beefing up his defense team as the impeachment trial, like I said before, is barely 8 hours old at this moment. They haven't even started doing the official calling of witnesses, which is still being argued about, being called out about. And at the same time, Trump is treating this like every other legal case. He is getting every lawyer under the sun and really trying to cover his ass. So again, with him pulling Kenneth Starr and then pulling Harvard law professor, which, by the way, his last name has to be a lawyer, because wherever you have Doofenshmirtz and you want to go, that has to be a lawyer. And that's just me when I first heard it. But again, this just goes to show you, for such an innocent guy, he's starting a defense team that's starting to look like the Los Angeles Lakers at this moment. I'm surprised he doesn't have 11 lawyers on his roster by now. But moving right along, some interesting, damaging things have came out this week. Specifically from Lev Parnas. If you don't know who Lev Parnas is basically the guy who worked with Rudy Giuliani as a Ukrainian ally, and he has said some very, very damaging things that could be brought up in the Senate. Actually, his interview with Anderson Cooper, he actually speaks about a few of those things.
Said that there were 2 times in which you gave the message of a quid pro quo to Ukrainian officials. What were those 2 times?
I think they were probably a little bit more than 2 times, but there were so. The first quid pro we gave was when we met with President Poroshenko. That was
former president.
Former President Poroshenko.
So what was your message to Poroshenko?
Poroshenko is that if he would make the announcement that he would get Trump would either invite him to the White House or make a statement for him, but basically would start supporting him for president.
So that was the first quid pro quo. Poroshenko can come to the White House or get a meeting with Trump if he announces an investigation.
Correct.
What was the next one?
And you have to understand, because this was a transition time. Zelensky just won. He was president-elect. And the number one thing on their agenda was not even the transition; it was to get the inauguration, because it was a big thing. He was a young
to show the American backing of the new administration. Of course,
because he had no strength with Russia.
Giuliani cancels his visit because there's a lot of bad publicity about it in the United States. He cancels his visit. You go have the meeting with a high-level official in Zelensky's circle, and what's the message you deliver?
I basically told him, very strict and very stern, that several things. A, that he needed to make an announcement. Zelensky needed to immediately make an announcement, literally that night or tomorrow, within the next 24 hours, that they were opening up an investigation on Biden.
Within 24 hours or so?
I mean, I don't remember 24 hours that same night, but I mean, literally, because, Rudy was really pissed off that this was going to be a setup.
That this hadn't happened.
Well, he said some very strong words. I mean, he on TV also. I mean, everybody in Ukraine was flipping out at that time, because to hear Rudy Giuliani come out and say that that Zelensky, the president-elect, that all of a sudden he's surrounded by enemies, and he named the names of the people.
That could be that could destroy the new regime.
It was very near. I mean, it was some crazy times in Ukraine at that time.
So we're just going to cut off there because, like I said, it goes into way worse stuff. But pretty much Lev Parnas is the associate with Rudy Giuliani, and pretty much he did say that, yes, there was quid pro quos in Ukraine, and he started to name off quite the amount of those quid pro quos in Ukraine. And for a lot of people that's saying that now this information is coming out, especially with the impeachment hearing and the fact that this cannot be ignored, there's also some other bad news that Dorito's not going to like, and this actually comes from the basically the Government Accountability Office, in which their investigation into the Ukraine.
Government watchdog report says the president broke the law, overriding Capitol Hill by freezing that military aid to Ukraine, pointing out he cannot substitute his own policy priorities for those that Congress has enacted into law.
45 years here, I've never seen anything like this.
But a senior administration official describes the findings as overreach. The military aid is part of what Democrats have called a quid pro quo, accusing the president of using it as leverage to get Ukraine to open investigations into his political rivals, like the Bidens. A key player in that push was Lev Parnas, Rudy Giuliani's right-hand man in Ukraine, explaining in a bombshell interview with MSNBC's Rachel Maddow.
It wasn't just military aid, it was all aid. Basically, the relationships would be sour, that we would stop giving him any kind of aid. Unless that there was an announcement made. Well, several things. There were several demands at that point. The most important one was the announcement of the Biden investigation.
Parnas says the vice president, the attorney general, even President Trump were all in the know, though he did not mention any direct conversation with the president.
President Trump knew exactly what was going on. He was aware of all my movements. I wouldn't do anything without the consent of Rudy Giuliani or the president.
But the president has denied any wrongdoing, and today denied even knowing Parnas.
Well, I don't know him. I don't know Parnas, other than I guess I had pictures taken, which I do with thousands of people. Don't know what he's about. Don't know where he comes from. Know nothing about him.
Parnas also implicating other top officials.
You have reason to believe that Vice President Pence was tasked at that meeting with getting President Zelensky to announce investigations of Joe Biden specifically.
Yes.
Mr. Barr knew about that.
Mr. Barr had to have known everything. I mean, it's impossible.
The Justice Department says that's 100% false, and the vice president's office points to witness testimony that contradicts Parnas, adding he will say anything to anybody who will listen in hopes of staying out of prison. Parnas has been indicted, accused of breaking campaign finance law, arrested this fall at a Washington airport with a one-way ticket out of the country.
This man lacks all credibility.
Now it's an open question on whether Parnas could testify in the Senate impeachment trial.
Oh, Dorito, this might be your end. It is hard to sit there and not say for the sole fact of the matter is just that, of course, Trump doesn't know him. You know what? I take plenty of pictures with thousands of people. Okay, I don't know everybody, but I know, but I have like 20 pictures of him. That doesn't mean anything. That's like, dude, Dorito, come clean, because this man, who is now under investigation for his own crime, he is going to do time. The only way I see him getting anything out of this is that he has to have certifiable evidence that implicates everybody he's taking orders for. I mean, he's implicated Dorito, he's implicated Giuliani, he's implicated Pence, he's even implicated William Barr. So already that's 4 people that he's already named that happen to be associated with him, because he's pretty much saying, I didn't do all this unless I was told by one of those 4 guys. And it's funny because what does Trump always do? Dorito always turns around, I don't know him. I don't know him. Pence, oh, well, we have testimony that says otherwise. Barr, at the Department of Justice, a comment. This is 100% false. William Barr, you're already in hot water yourself, playing the president's personal lawyer and not the nation's attorney general. So who's not to say that what Parnas has been saying at this point is not true? Because the fact of the matter is, he's already going up the creek. Now, whether it's a long creek or a short creek will determine on whether or not that whatever he says can actually hold up. And I can also imagine that what's going to probably wind up happening is that he is probably going to be testifying in the Senate impeachment trial. Because trust me, that's going to have to happen. Aside from that, though, like I said about the impeachment trial, which a lot of people, which I understand, are going to be a little dismayed because they say that, Republicans, especially McConnell, Dorito cheerleader Lindsey Graham, has already sat there and said that we're not going to be, how they put this, we're not going to be fair jurors. And I don't know about you, but if you ever did jury duty and actually told the judge that you're not going to be fair in a trial, they're pretty quick to dismiss you or hold you in contempt. Yet politicians can turn around and sit there and say that and nothing happens to them. And I just thought that was kind of odd and kind of weird at the same time. But again, as the impeachment trial, like I said, impeachment trial right now, barely 8 hours old. And yet they have still yet to call witnesses, but eventually that's going to come forward. Anyway, moving right along though, guys, another story which I wish never came out because honestly, basically it's taken on a life of its own, but it's really one of the most stupidest things. And it actually came out of the presidential debate this week.
And Senator Warren confirmed in a statement that in 2018, you told her that you did not believe that a woman could win the election. Why did you say that?
Well, as a matter of fact, I didn't say it. And I don't want to waste a whole lot of time on this because this is what Donald Trump and maybe some of the media want. Anybody knows me, knows that it's incomprehensible that I would think that a woman could not be president of the United States. Go to YouTube today. There's a video of me 30 years ago talking about how a woman could become president of the United States. In 2015, I deferred, in fact, to Senator Warren. There was a movement to draft Senator Warren to run for president. And you know what? I stayed back. Senator Warren decided not to run, and I did run afterwards. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 3 million votes. How could anybody in a million years not believe that a woman could become president of the United States? And let me be very clear. If any of the women on this stage or any of the men on this stage win the nomination, I hope that's not the case. I hope it's me. But if they do, I will do everything in my power to make sure that they are elected in order to defeat the most dangerous president in the history of our country.
So Senator Sanders, I do want to be clear here. You're saying that you never told Senator Warren that a woman could not win the election.
That is correct.
Senator Warren, what did you think when Senator Sanders told you a woman could not win the election?
I disagreed. Bernie is my friend, and I am not here to try to fight with Bernie. But look, this question about whether or not a woman can be president has been raised, and it's time for us to attack it head on. And I think the best way to talk about who can win is by looking at people's winning record. So, can a woman beat Donald Trump? Look at the men on this stage. Collectively, they have lost 10 elections. The only people on this stage who have won every single election that they've been in are the women, Amy and me. And the only person on this stage who has beaten an incumbent Republican any time in the past 30 years is me. And here's what I know. The real danger that we face as Democrats is picking a candidate who can't pull our party together or someone who takes for granted big parts of the Democratic constituency. We need a candidate who will excite all parts of the Democratic Party, bring everyone in, and give everyone a Democrat to believe in. That's my plan, and that is why I'm going to win.
Okay, so let's go ahead and just knock this out. First off, I was pissed off at CNN. I was pissed off at CNN for the simple fact of the matter is, of all the many things you could talk about, you could have talked about the wage income gap. You could have talked about the cost of everything going up on your paycheck. You could have talked about why there are not more unions. You could have talked about why are more jobs not being talked about. You could have talked about student loans, education, climate change, environmental protections, rolling back the tax plan that Trump has put out there. You could have talked about anything else that was more viable, even labor unions. You could have talked about anything else of merit, but the moderator, who at the time, which I was mad about, decides to bring up this story and say, well, Senator Sanders, do you still believe that you said it was said so long ago that you, and she didn't say allegedly, mind you. She didn't say allegedly. She sat there and said, back then, you sat there and said a woman cannot win the presidency. And of course, Bernie Sanders tried to get the best answer he could. I didn't say that. I still believe it. History has proven that a woman can win, and he would support it. Even though if he didn't win the nomination, he would support it. Man or woman would support anybody else in the hopes of defeating Trump. Now, Bernie could have sat there, and Bernie sat there and said one thing that actually was very clear. This has no merit because all this is doing is basically making more divisions among us and helping out Dorito. Which, by the way, I am surprised that Dorito didn't tweet that. Because usually when he wants to take shots at people, he'll get around his Twitter machine and just be like shots fired, and go from there. That's his usual stick anyway. So for the simple fact of the matter is that I'm surprised that he didn't actually fire any shots. However, Warren kind of disappointed me a little bit, because Warren could have sat there and of course, like I said, I was mad at CNN first. You asked the question, Bernie answered it, and then you turn around and went right to Warren and reiterated it. Senator Warren, how did you feel about what Bernie Sanders said about women not winning? Okay, so is this, if at first you don't succeed, try again? And Senator Warren, how can I put this? I understand as politicians you do have to run separately. And you do have to separate yourself from the crowd. Kamala Harris and Cory Booker couldn't do that. That's why they're no longer in the race anymore. That being said, there needs to be some unity in the party, where y'all should have sat there and said it's a ridiculous statement because I've won my Senate seat multiple times, so of course a woman can win. And regardless if he said it or not, that's not the issue we should be talking right now. I wish she said that. The reason why I say that is I like Warren. I like Sanders. But again, Senator Warren had the moment to literally bury that story and just sit there and say, we're not talking about that. That's not the issue. The issue is the American people and what they need. I wish she would have said that, just for the simple fact of the matter. It's just that it would show unity. At the same time, it would have killed the story because, let's be honest, it's something that shouldn't have ever popped up in a debate because that doesn't speak about what the candidate's going to do. You're basically doing a he said, she said argument, which really no one is going to admit or deny. But apparently CNN, this is where you fucked up, is basically because you ran with a story. You basically just did Fox News for a debate. And that's saying a lot, considering the fact that Fox News has always stood out to what they said they are. And CNN tries to come out as the center, of course, with MSNBC being for the left. But CNN, let's just be honest, you just became Fox News left in that debate. And again, with Warren, it's just the whole thing that I was disappointed in her answer. I didn't want her to go into the whole thing of women can do this. We know women can do this. We know women can win the presidency. Although when Clinton was running against Bernie, the DNC actually screwed Bernie and actually pushed Clinton forward because they thought she was a better option against Trump, which on paper she is. I cannot knock Hillary for that. She is way more accomplished than Trump and should be Madam President by now. That's just honesty. But unfortunately, when you have a lack of people that don't vote and a whole bunch of racists, misogynists, and xenophobes that are voting, of course a racist is going to be in the White House. Hence Dorito. But again, like I said before, with this story, it just literally it took up more unnecessary time of getting life than any other subject, and that's what's so messed up. But speaking of other subjects that don't get any more life, let's just be honest about this next one. I'm going to show this exchange between Don Lemon and Andrew Cuomo.
Poll, it's an Washington Post Ipsos poll. We're going to break all of that down. But what happened to all of these polls that they're pointing out saying, well, the president's numbers among African Americans, they're growing. He's 35%. We know better than that.
Well, look, here's what he's got going for him. If he can get 19 African Americans to vote for him, it'll be a boost. It's a little bit of a relative assessment, but the idea that nobody's been better for the blacks than I have.
Oh, please.
They know what he said.
The blacks.
They know what he encourages.
I know you are saying the blacks because he says it. Yeah. Because I have never in my life heard you say the blacks.
No,
because
that's
you
what
know
he says.
what I would do to you if I ever heard you say the blacks.
Do a goddamn thing.
I had to stop myself on that one.
Oh my god!
Because
it irritates me every time I hear you ain't gonna do shit.
Okay, so the thing about Don Lemon, guys, because me and, of course, Mountain Puncher back there, we've had this discussion about Don Lemon. We honestly think sometime between the last, I think it was New Year's of 2000 and somewhere between 2009 and now, Don Lemon apparently became woke. I think because he got drunk on New Year's Eve and the real Don Lemon came out. But what they were speaking about that one before he decided to tell Chris Cuomo, I thought you don't know what I'll do. Oh yeah, you will. You'll call your lawyer. With that being said, though, they did actually bring up a wonderful point about African Americans because they said in the most recent poll, 83% of African Americans believe that Dorito is racist. Of course, Donald Trump's in there. He will still tout I have the lowest employment rate among African Americans. I have the highest rate of income by minorities. Let me tell you something about the blacks, okay? The blacks love me. Charles Barkley, personal friend, okay? I have a black person. I have a black person as Department of Housing. You put Sleepy Carl as a neurosurgeon, which, by the way, his credits need to be checked for a guy that literally a neurosurgeon that's put as Director of Housing and Urban Development. Something is wrong. I mean, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. But again, something is wrong with that. But the interesting part about it is, like I did explain in my other previous podcasts about the black vote. Let's be honest at this point, because a lot of issues, mainly minority and African American issues, don't get brought up on debates very much. Reason being because there's still a lot of racists that watch the debates and they could care less about any other person, any other ethnicity except their own. So us looking for candidacy or us looking for our issues to get talked about, I mean, the only times they're really ever brought up is either when Warren, Sanders, or at the time, Cory Booker, when he first started talking about black issues, then somewhere down the line decided to drop it. You can take from there as far as what you will as how he got there. But again, the whole idea of Trump saying that he is loved by the African American community, yeah, we know a racist when we see one. Some of us have waged me flashbacks. So again, it's not surprising that, with polls themselves can be skewed, can be analyzed and whatnot. But at the same time, I think anybody, whether you're black, white, brown, or polka dot, can say at this day and age that, yeah, Trump is racist. If you haven't gone by the last 4 years of what he's done. And speaking of things that he's done, and I don't mean to make this an all Dorito podcast for this one, guys, but it seems like he was going to be in every section of the news today. But Dorito also did this, which I still find interesting as all get out.
Here to the Oval Office for the National Religious Freedom Day, something very important and very special, and special to me and the people that are gathered around me. This afternoon, we're proudly announcing historic steps to protect the First Amendment right to pray in public schools. So you have the right to pray, and that's a very important and powerful right. There's nothing more important than that, I would say. We're joined by the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, Deputy Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen, and students and advocates from across America. And advocates they were. They've been calling and writing by the thousands, and you're representing that large group of people. In a sacred principle of our republic that government must never stand between the people and God. Yet in public schools around the country, authorities are stopping students and teachers from praying, sharing their faith, or following their religious beliefs. It is totally unacceptable. You see it on the football field. You see it so many times where they're stopped from praying, and we are doing something to stop that. Tragically, there is a growing totalitarian impulse on the far left that seeks to punish, restrict, and even prohibit religious expression. Something that, if you go back 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, it was unthought of that a thing like that could even happen, that anybody would even think of something like that happening. That is why today my administration is issuing strong new guidance to protect religious liberty in our public schools. The right of students and teachers to freely exercise their faith will always be protected, including the right to pray. So we call this the right to pray. Is that a good idea? Good, right? You like that, right?
The right to pray. Of course, Trump is talking about his part of the Right to Pray Act in order to allow those who believe that their religious freedoms are being prosecuted, especially in the same sense that you have to understand that our right to exercise our faith is being attacked. Where? The last time I checked, we had a separation of church and state. Schools themselves are supposed to be non-denominational unless you go to a school that is a religious school or private school or charter schools, because there's plenty of them out there. But regardless of whether school you're at, they always let you pray. Moment of silence, anybody? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I was going in grade school, we always had the Pledge of Allegiance, which I stopped standing for in 5th grade, because why am I saying a whole bunch of words to a flag that I don't really mean? Which is your right. And at the same time, what happened after that for all those that were, 1980s and up? We remember when we had the moment, when we actually had the Pledge of Allegiance. What happened next? We'll now have a moment of silence. And, people took the time to pray. I had plenty of classmates all the way up till 12th grade where they got out their Bibles and prayed. Nothing wrong with that. I've had plenty of people who were Muslims who I was going to school with, that they would go to a certain classroom and go pray. Nothing wrong with that. I even was going to school with Satanists, and Satanists did their thing. Nothing was wrong with that. So, for the simple fact of the matter is, that stuff still goes on today. Like children of the people of the Muslim faith, when they go to school, can still go pray. Those of the Christian or any other faith can go pray, and they're not prosecuted. But it's always that certain group of people out there that sit there and say their religious freedoms are being prosecuted. I can't live my life the way I want to live it. Yeah, you can. See, what the problem is, a lot of people get religious oppression confused with religious freedom. Religious freedom means that, yes, you can go out there and go pray and not be bothered. That is your right to do that. However, when you feel like you think other people should be praying with you, or you think that other people should be praying basically because you feel the need to,
or praying within the same belief system that you inherit in,
hence oppression. So it's not a simple fact about religious freedoms. You've always had religious freedoms. You always could have practiced however you wanted to practice, and nobody would have cared. Simply put, because that is every American's right. However, you do have that select few out there who truly believe that their way of life should be the standard way of life. And that's the fucked up part. That's oppression. That's what they want to do. That's what they call them. That's what they're trying to say is religious freedoms, because a whole bunch of people out there may not believe in your same set of morals or religious or beliefs. And you look at them and call them heathens, but you'll sit there and say your way is right. Don't believe me? There's a story right now in Tennessee, which I can't stand, but I can't say I didn't see this coming, because our Tennessee governor right now, Bill Lee, is about to sign an anti-gay adoption bill. Now, what does this bill mean? This bill basically means that it protects businesses, adoption agencies, foster care homes that can exclude LGBTQ families, and now uses taxpayer dollars, which basically this whole bill that's being signed means that any business in Nashville or in Tennessee, for that matter, can turn around and discriminate legally. I mean, Tennessee's already a right-to-work state, which they can discriminate anyway. But the simple fact of the matter is, now, because of what's going on, anybody in the LGBTQ community, if you're trying to adopt, if you're trying to work, if you're trying to, well, mostly it's kind of geared toward more adoption agencies, because a lot of the agencies here in Nashville, a good majority of them are faith-based, which means they're either of a Christian, Catholic, or some other faith. And of course, let's be honest, it's mostly Christians and Catholics who see these same-sex parents or people in the same-sex marriages who want to adopt children, and of course they see that already as a house of sin that we just can't allow we can't allow the Lord's children in that house of sin. You can't raise a child with two mammies. You can't raise a child with two daddies. The Lord gave us Adam and Eve. He gave you a man and a woman. A man and a woman can raise a child, but I cannot believe the good Lord says that two men cannot raise a child. Two men can't raise a daughter. Two women can't raise a boy. That's why we have a man and a woman. I wish I could make that up. That's exactly how they think. And for any of those that work in those faith-based adoption centers, please tell me I'm wrong. Because let's be honest, why else do you need a legal adoption bill to sit there and put into place that not only protects you from discriminating against parents, but at the same time, you still get taxpayer funding? I wish I could make that up. A faith-based organization in Tennessee can get taxpayer funding and still discriminate. That's like saying, here's my cake and your cake, and I'm going to still eat while you sit there and watch. And you can't sit there and say, beyond all else, how fucked up that truly is. And of course, with Amazon, because that's another part of this, because Amazon is major in Nashville, they were about to bring an additional 5,000 jobs to Nashville, which they sat there and said, we don't support this legislation, but they'll still come to Nashville. You want to know why? Right to work, which means that they control everything from ship to stern. So we really shouldn't be surprised about the simple fact of the matter is that they're going to turn around and run with it. They'll sit there and say above all else that they don't agree with it, but at the same time, they're still going to run with it. So again, it is messed up about that, as well as simple fact of the matter is that that now families, mainly same-sex couples, who want to adopt. And you would think for the pro-life people out there, they should be more pissed off about this. They're the ones always talking about, all these kids out here need to have their own voice. All those unborn children need to have their own voice. They should have homes. They should have parents. And when you have parents coming up, oh, just not you. They need parents. We'll be parents. Oh, not you. You're two guys. You're two women. You're you're poly. You have multiple mothers and fathers. Y'all can't be great parents. And I'll be quite honest, for the simple fact of the matter of Christianity, a lot more fucked up things have been done in the word of Christianity than possibly any other religion out there. Prove me wrong. But again, it's sad because, like I always say about Tennessee, Tennessee is progressively backwards. They truly freaking are. And this decision, like I said, I didn't vote for Bill Lee just because he's a businessman, and great businessmen don't make good politicians. You don't believe me? Look at the current administration. With that being said, guys, we are going to move forward about this. Another story that just came out about this woman that died in the ER. Tanisha, and I apologize if I destroy her name. Tashana Ward, if you've heard about this story, was literally waiting in a hospital room for more than 2 hours after her x-ray showed that she was having an enlarged heart. Of course, she wasn't seen since she's been there. So, of course, her sister decides to take her to another hospital, but on the way, she loses consciousness and was brought back to the hospital where she was pronounced dead. So her family, and this is actually her right there, so her family is actually asking questions specifically as to why it took so long for her to get help, especially in the sense of hospitals where if they detect something is wrong with your heart, or if they detect that you're in cardiac arrest, or if they say that, or if your life is in immediate danger, you honestly get pushed to the front of the line, and 9 times out of 10, you're pushed straight to the ICU. But the simple fact of the matter is, the family is asking the hospital, why was more care being taken after it was discovered that she was having heart conditions? And of course, the hospital at this point is being silent as they're looking all over the details. But that just goes to show you that the level of care that we actually have in this country, especially specifically with hospitals, is kind of a warning. Because for all those that have ever been to the ER, which I hope you haven't, but I know unfortunately some of us have to go, you know about the long wait. Of course, we don't have enough doctors, we don't have enough nurses, we don't have enough staff, even though for those in that profession, God bless you, but at the same time, there's not enough of them out there to where people can get seen immediately. So we're kind of stuck as far as, in this case, unfortunately for this young lady who passed away, honestly, because of somebody's negligence. At the same time, I hope the family does get answers about this. For the simple fact of the matter is just that is a life that could have been saved instead of her having to wait just to get seen. And trust me, I can go on another 2 hours about the healthcare system and how hospitals are ran in America, but we don't got that kind of time, and I don't want to keep you guys up that long. But again, it's like very sad with her family, and hope that they do find some peace eventually. And I hope they actually get compensated. I hope they sue the shit out of that hospital. But moving right along, guys, as we get to our last two stories before we get to our feel-good segment, let's go ahead and get to phase one of the China deal. It sounds like a Marvel movie, but it's not.
For a room full of Wall Street and business leaders, President Trump and China's vice premier today inked phase one of a trade deal aimed at ending a heated trade war that's dragged on for 2 years.
Together we are righting the wrongs of the past and delivering a future of economic justice and security for American workers, farmers, and families.
But American families are unlikely to see cheaper prices soon on many Chinese-made products like TVs, shoes, and clothing, since most U.S. tariffs will remain in effect until the second phase of the trade deal is completed. China has agreed to buy $200 billion worth of American products and services, including $80 billion in U.S. manufactured goods, $40 billion worth of American farm exports, and protections for U.S. trade secrets and intellectual property. Virginia farmer John Boyd has struggled to make ends meet since the trade war caused soybean prices to collapse.
I have a mortgage on this farm. I have not been able to make my mortgage payment right now, because these prices are at an all-time low.
Wall Street today applauded the deal, closing above $29,000 for the first time in history. China today said it expects the U.S. to treat Chinese companies fairly, an indicator both sides are looking for a win to put this trade.
So, again, like I said, with phase one of the Chinese deal, honestly, it doesn't feel like a deal to me. I've always said it best. Until someone realizes we cannot compete with China. Reason being, they corner the market on mostly everything. Manufacturing, production, exports, imports. A lot of the stuff that we actually now have in the U.S. is exported from China. And let's just be honest, when you're trying to have a trade deal with someone who's holding all the cards, you're not going to come out easy. Matter of fact, you're probably going to come out worse. So the simple fact of the matter is just that, well, this is a great win. No, it's not, because look at what they just described. They just sat there and said most of the tariffs are still in place, except that China's going to buy $200 billion of American U.S. goods and services, protect U.S. trade securities, and oh, yeah, promise to actually do more. Really? How do they promise to do more? Because the farmer we just showed, because, you know, Trump has already bailed out the farmers twice. What they didn't say is that they're not bailing out every farmer. Only the ones in certain support states where they support his base. Quid pro quo.
Right.
So again, it's like when you see a guy saying, I haven't been able to make my payments because the price of soybeans have gone down. You want to know why? Tariffs are still in effect. And of course, Wall Street's loving this because when you go to U.S. trade and securities, Wall Street's like, yay! And of course, people don't realize, and I've always said there and said this best, a U.S. economy is not based on how well Wall Street is doing. You cannot base an economy on how well your top percent is doing. You base an economy on how well the lower classes are doing. For example, if your middle class is starting to look like your lower class, but your upper class is still looking like more like fat cats, at the same time, Wall Street closed 200 points above what they normally do after hearing about a trade deal which actually benefits them and not the American people, then let's be honest, the American economy as we know it looks good on paper, but when you scrutinize it, it is shit. So, really should not be surprised about that. So our last story, which when I first read this, I was like, maybe this is finally going to happen, but apparently it's not. I'm talking about the Supreme Court's case for faithless electors. Now, for all those that don't know what faithless electors are those who are very much that cast the ballots in the Electoral College for presidents and vice presidents during the election. Of course, electors can decide to go with whoever they want to, despite the state's popular vote, which means that, for the simple fact of the matter is, that's why they call them faithless electors, because faithless electors can decide the outcome of a presidency if the Electoral College is tied or close. And I've always sat there and said it best about this because they were about to, there was a movement to actually get rid of the Electoral College. The reason why we need to get rid of the Electoral College is simple. We have outgrown that system. The Electoral College was only made for a certain set of a population. Now, granted, we've bypassed that. We're probably one of the very few countries out there that still use electoral college. Every other country in the world uses popular vote. And I think it's high time that we finally get rid of it. We finally get rid of the actual electoral college. Reason being just because it serves no purpose. It's the reason why we have these battleground states. It's the reason why we turn around and it's the reason why, they have the ballot, they have the Iowa caucus, they have the North Carolina caucus, Ohio, and other places they go to, because they're straw polls. That's what they go off of. And I think that is messed up, that because you're giving these states, which again, that's just the way they're going with it, should tell you off the bat that things need to change. And I hope they kind of do with the Electoral College being disbanded. But a lot of people always bring this up. And I love this, and I love when they bring it up because it gives me a chance to show them how Google works. They would sit there and say, but Will, if we took out the Electoral College, that basically means that California can decide the presidency. Okay, so let's point this out. You're saying that a single state can decide the outcome of a presidency no matter what. Well, yes, William, there's so many people that live out in California. This is why Google's important. Because currently, California's current population is now 39.56 million, off a study that was done in 2018. Now, here's the one thing that a lot of people, like I said, using Google, keep in mind now, this was 2018. Look at Texas. Again, 28.7. Other areas, Florida, 23.1. Houston, 2.3, although in Texas. So that's just 2 states. So California has nearly roundabout 40 million people. Okay? 40 million people. Texas, maybe about 10 million short. We're not even counting the other states here. So, the argument of saying that California can literally and figuratively decide a single presidential nomination is bullshit. Utter bullshit. That's why the argument makes no sense. And that's why with a given now, keep in mind, our estimated population in the United States is somewhere hovers between 327 million and 350 million, give or take an error or two. But for the simple fact of the matter is, the popular vote can work. Because if we went by the popular vote, we wouldn't have Dorito in office right now. We would actually have our first woman president. So for the simple fact of the matter, it makes no sense to sit there and say the Electoral College is still needed, when simply put, it is an outdated system. And it's only being put in place to give more homage to other states that have more delegate votes. Because let's be honest, in the game of Electoral College, he who has the most votes wins. And I think that's fucked up because it takes away from the popular vote. Because honestly, the popular vote should be the true vote for the U.S. And if we did that and got rid of the Electoral College, I personally believe there will be more people voting, because at that point, truly, your vote matters. I believe we can, and I approve this message. So, with that being said, guys, we are going to go ahead and get to our feel-good segment. Like I said, on how the frack we got here. We do talk about a lot of things. Sometimes doom and gloom. Sometimes it's like, well, fuck it, the world's burning. You might as well have a cigarette. But we try to leave it on a good news segment. Something to feel good, something because it's the weekend. I know it's raining over here in Tennessee, but you want to get the weekend. Of course, it's Martin Luther King weekend, and of course, for some of those who aren't working Monday, you just want to enjoy it. Remember the civil rights movement and all those that actually fought for our rights to actually have here and actually be able to do things that they couldn't do. So definitely, of course, we're going to always remember Martin Luther King, always remember Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, and the many other unsung heroes, especially the late Elijah Cummings, because he was also a part of the civil rights movement, for all those that don't know. And I can keep going down the line, basically, because I still believe that, if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. So, With that being said, guys, I do have one story which I think is pretty cool because I just happen to see it, and of course, music reaches out among all of us, and I cannot say much more about this, but I'm just gonna play the video and shut up.
The world's finest classical music might have been lost forever were it not for a woman who has spent nearly 2 decades restoring it to prominence. Adriana Diaz on the quest to find and catalog pieces written by some long-forgotten Black composers.
Ready, go.
At Brooklyn's Ryder Elementary School, students in the Harmony program got a front row seat to world-class violinist Rachel Barton Pine. She's playing music by composers like Ignatius Sancho, a self-taught British slave, and Chevalier de Saint-Georges, who was once the envy of Mozart.
This music, a lot of it hasn't been published. A lot of it was published but is long out of print due to historic discrimination.
The classical music of more than 350 Black composers spanning 4 centuries has resurfaced thanks to Pine's determined research.
Our primary motivation behind doing this work is to inspire young African American students that classical music is part of their history and that they're an important part of classical music's future.
And it seems to be working.
Who did you think classical music was for?
Old people.
And now do you feel like classical music is for you?
Yes.
Pine's initiative, Music by Black Composers, has created a music book and even a coloring book. Inspiration composer Jessie Montgomery would have welcomed when she was younger.
Knowing about these performers and composers probably would have eliminated the question in my head. Am I odd for being Black and interested in classical music?
It's a question already answered by these young violinists.
I want to be a composer so I can share my feeling with the world.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that.
Tchaikovsky doesn't expect his violin concerto to only be played by Russians. We're all supposed to play all the good music because that's how we learn about each other.
And orchestrate harmony. Adriana Diaz, CBS News, Brooklyn, New York.
And honestly, guys, that's cool.
That's fucking awesome.
That's awesome. Then, like I said before, history, when it's not taught, it is lost. And the simple fact of the matter is, there were Black composers around those times of Mozart, Toscovy, Beethoven, Rustep. I can keep going down the line, but the simple fact of the matter is that someone is trying to bring those to light and teach the next generation about really African American history is awesome and at the same time inspiring. So I cannot knock it. I love that, and that gives me hope. Will I play the violin? Probably not, but I will still encourage someone else to do it because look at these hands. These are paws. I would break a violin. Now, don't get me wrong. Probably one of my favorite ones is I think I want to say because the funny part is, short story. For all those that don't remember Ashura's Wrath, there was a song called on there, I think it was called Into the New World, Symphony No. 2 by Mozart. Possibly one of my favorite classical pieces that I always sit there and said if I could learn to play a violin, that would probably be it. But honestly, it is one of the most difficult that I've been listening to violin players try to play Into the New, I think it's called Into the New World. I want to say it's called Into the New World No. 2, but I have to look it back up. But again, one of my favorite classical pieces just because you would have to hear it. And plus, because I can't play it right now because, like I said, YouTube and, of course, Facebook would get on me about playing classical music. Who knew that actually sharing knowledge about classical music will actually get you banned? But for all those that don't know what I'm talking about, just look up. I want to say it's Into the New World. I want to say Into the New World No. 2 is what I'm talking about. But anyway, love the actual story, and I love the simple fact of the matter is just that it's pretty much just trying to keep kids interested. And that's the whole thing. Like I've always said, education is so vital. I cannot take away from that. I will keep harping about that because honestly, once you take education and innovation and you don't inspire creation, creativity, if you don't inspire anything in these kids, that's how you wind up with these kids who are attached to cell phones, using filters and staying on social media when they could be creating great music. They could be creating new things and things of that nature. That's why education is important. I'm William Buchanan, and I approve this message. Anyway, that being said, guys, that's going to be the end of the show. Show for this week. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate everybody. and I cannot stress that enough. I know I'm getting tongue-tied. I apologize. I cannot say thank you enough, because a lot of you guys will peek your heads in, say something, leave, come back. I know life gets us all, so I'm not knocking you about that. I am just appreciative that not only have you liked, you shared, you subscribed, you shown other people. I've had, and I still say it's still cool. I mean, I'm not saying I got Star Trek. I'm just saying people look at me in the gym and go, "Hey, you got a podcast, don't you?" And I've been, people don't even know. And I like the fact that, they like what I'm doing. Well, I don't know if we made it or not, but we get noticed. I know Thomas gets noticed, but anyway,
the lie.
But anyway, I just want to say thank you. Just for the simple fact of the matter, it's just that I wondered when I first started doing this, am I doing it right? Am I going to get people's attention? Am I going to say the stories that people want to see and things of that nature? I cannot say enough thank you, because a lot of people have told me what they liked, what they didn't like, and I get that, I understand that, and I always try to make it best to where it fits people, not to actually fit a narrative, but to basically give you the information, and you decide from yourself, because it's actually how the news should be. The news shouldn't actually lead you one way or another way. It literally should be giving you all the information that you need to make a decision for yourself and make up your own damn mind, is how it's actually supposed to be. So, I hope I am doing that to the best of my ability. If I'm not, please let me know. If you like the show, please let me know. If you don't like the show, also let me know. I'm equal criticism either way, and I'm just trying to make it better and more entertaining to grab those. Like I said, if this becomes bigger that takes up my primary job, I could do this all day. I really could. For all those that know I can talk, it's like, yes, Will, we know you can talk all day. Sometimes you need to shut the fuck up, honestly. But it's okay. Hey, I'll be honest, sometimes I do talk all day. But aside from that, I'm not the only cat out here. I'm literally wiping away tears from making my own damn self cry. I'm not the only cat out here that actually has shows that we'll be doing, because there will be a lot of shows being done today. The person behind me could introduce why To Be Determined is going to be coming up this soon, unless he wants to. Never mind, I got it. Never mind, I got it. So, the person behind me, which you can't see because I'm massively wide, but you ain't in the shadows. But the person behind me, Thomas Reed, aka Kid the Mountain Puncher, will possibly. Are you doing a podcast today?
Yeah, I'm doing a podcast today.
He actually is doing a podcast today. He does a show called To Be Determined. So To Be Determined is basically a fitness show. If you've seen Thomas Reed on Facebook, trust me, the guy stays in the gym all damn day, every day.
Not all damn day. I mean, I'm in there every day though.
All damn day. But anyway, he is a guy. If I could show you his before pictures, I really wish. I need to find your before picture, because I tell the story about Thomas all the time. Even Thomas told the story. Thomas at one point damn near almost weighed 500 pounds. No shit. He, in the words of Fluffy, he wasn't even damn. He was, oh hell no. He was that. I'm telling you, as he would say, he could walk 20 feet and warm up a turkey between his thighs. It's like, ding, Thanksgiving. So, if I gotta find that before picture. But anyway, he's a guy that likes to talk about fitness. He likes to actually talk about workouts. He likes to talk about what works, what may work and what may not work, the trends, the fads, and just cutting through all that noise. But really, he just wants to encourage you to find your zenith, to basically find the results through hard work and determination. And like I said, he also talks about certain subjects in the gym, like those trainers that are too close to women that do squats. I mean, real close. Like, fuck foreplay kind of close. Y'all know who you are. Anyway, but it's To Be Determined podcast will be later today, about 3 p.m. on Facebook Live. Just look up Thomas Reed on Facebook. And, of course, his YouTube page. And what is that YouTube page, Thomas?
The number 2, the letter T, the letter B, the letter D. That's 2 TBD.
Hey!
Damn.
First try. Yes. We gonna get there. We gonna get those promo skills on point. We gonna get those promo skills on point, Thomas. We getting there. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get his promo skills going. I feel proud right now that he got on the first shot. But yes, his YouTube page, number 2, letter T, letter B, letter D, 2 TBD. Why? Because we have to beat Facebook's algorithm and YouTube's algorithm. And I come to find out, toying around with the name of that page seems to be it. But again, like I said, his Facebook, Thomas Reed, at 3 p.m. is when he goes live. And of course, my other brother, another mother who just jumped in here, Vaughn, A. Weatherspoon, has a few posts of his own. I hope to God he's going to be with us today, because he is missed. We miss you, sir. We miss you. Come home, Vaughn. All is forgiven. The church, the door is still open. Come, won't you come? Come down to the altar. Confess your sins and be cleansed in the waters of Lake Manitoba.
Not the waters.
Vaughn's gonna roast me for that one. But anyway, my buddy Vaughn, A.Weatherspoon on Facebook, has a few podcasts of his own. His first one is the VST. The VST is a news podcast. That news can be music, video games, or trailers. Interactive show just like mine. He also has a Rhythm This Week, Reminisce Over the Rhythm, in which he goes over the albums of the past and the present. If you've probably seen me on the show with them, you know me and Vaughn sometimes have different taste in music, but hey, you gotta have variety as far as opinions, because opinions always can bring a different perspective, and that's what Rhythm This is all about. He also has Random as Fuck with Uncle VZ. I miss Random as Fuck. I miss Random as Fuck so much. What is Random as Fuck? Random as Fuck is a pool of randomness we sometimes dip our toes into to take a break from life and have a chuckle. Some videos will make you think, some videos make you cry, some videos will just stick with you. Like my personal favorite on WorldStarHipHop.com, Burger King on Fire, old man rapping in the booth. Everybody knows I'm a kingpin. It's one of those videos that'll just stick with you. I'm going to be honest with you. But again, all of his shows can be found on his Facebook page, A.Weatherspoon. And of course, if you go to his YouTube page, BigBZA.podcast, you'll see every video that he's uploaded from there. Other friend of mine, Trace Brown, King Eddie Wayne on Facebook, DJ King Eddie Wayne on YouTube, has 2 podcasts of his own. The first one is called The Bump Down. The Bump Down is music, culture, knowledge, and numbers, in which he goes over chart work, goes over album sales, what's hot, what's coming up on the underground artists he's working with. And if you are an upcoming artist that wants your music to be played, whether on Trace's Bump Down or Vaughn's Rhythm This, please reach out to Trace or Vaughn on Facebook, and they'll give you the details on how to do that. The only thing we do ask is that you bring your fire. Now, when I mean bring your fire, I mean simply put, you never know who's watching our podcast, and this might be your come up. I mean, Cardi B got discovered off reality shows. Chance the Rapper got discovered off a mixtape. Lupe Fiasco got discovered off a freestyle. Who's not to say that this might be your time to come up, simply put, because somebody was scrolling along the interwebs and happened to see your video or hear your music. So, you know what? Bring your fire. And I'm talking about bring that Dylan, and spit that out of son. And that's what you should do. We just ask that you do that, and don't bring us garbage, because we've heard garbage and we've told them that it's garbage, and we don't want to do that, but we also got to be honest as well. So, leading in from Trace's Bump Down, he also has a Smoke with Truth podcast I like to call the unorthodox but very interesting podcast, because if you ever met Trace before, he is probably one of the most unorthodox thinking individuals I've ever met, but he's also very intelligent and brings a unique perspective to a lot of subjects. If you're willing to talk about it with him, then god dang, he's willing to talk about it with you, because he always wants all the smoke. With that being said, guys, with Trace Brown, so like I said, you can look him up on Facebook at King Eddie Wayne, or on his YouTube page, DJ King Eddie Wayne, and be able to like, share, subscribe from there. Of course, for yours truly, I do have, of course, the How the Frack We Got Here podcast every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon here on YouTube, as well as later on today. Like I said, I hope to God, cross my fingers, I'll have a full house for the Off Limits podcast, which will be a little bit later from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. tonight. Of course, on Off Limits, it is the podcast that goes there. We do go into the subjects that few dare to go into, but we try to have moderate discussions about it. Simply put, because a lot of these days when people have discussions, they just really talk over each other, really try to force their opinion down each other's throats and not listen. We try to do differently on our podcast, whether it's a silly subject, a serious subject, or just a funny subject. We try to have fun with it and just have a normal discussion and go from there, just like we did in our previous podcast, where we took a very serious subject, but we were still able to have fun with it, and we were still able to still come across the other people's opinions. So again, that's going to be a little bit later today on my Facebook, as well as my YouTube at 6 to 8 p.m. And of course, Sunday night, we are lacking, but we will get back on it. Sunday night, we will get back to Get Bit, because Get Bit is our blurred podcast, which usually me and the Mountain Puncher on it, in which we go over anime, sci-fi, comics, video games, and of course various news things. Like I said, there's a lot of geek podcasts out there, but not ones really tailored for the blurs. For the blurs, I mean the black and nerd, and that's how you get blurs. And there's not too many podcasts out there that are out there for us, made by us and for us. So we try to actually fill that void. So Get Bit, GITBIT, will also be available on my Facebook Live. That is William Buchanan, Sunday at 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Aside from that, guys, all of my pages do have, all my shows do have YouTube pages. So if you look up How the Frack We Got Here, Off Limits Podcast, and Get Bit, That is GITBIT. You'll be able to see every podcast that I've done so far. And like I said, like, share, and subscribe. And of course, tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. And the same goes for all of us because, like I said, we believe that we're trying to make this platform bigger than what it is, and we cannot do that without you. So, with that being said, guys, I do thank you all for watching. Oh, and let me not forget my buddy Wingnut Gaming, who probably is gaming. That man does so much more game streaming. But anyway, my buddy Wingnut is a guy who likes to stream. He usually plays Apex Legends. He usually plays Borderlands. He usually plays Fortnite, sometimes Call of Duty, and he's just not got on the Monster Hunter World, which I need to get on that because it looks so awesome, and I've yet to still play it. But anyway, he's a guy that likes to be social and likes to play with everybody else. And again, he's one of those guys to where all he's just trying to do is make new friends and be funny. And trust me, he really is. So if you get a chance on Facebook Gaming, on the Facebook Gaming channel, look at Wingnut Gaming, like, share, and subscribe, and tell him that I told you to call him a powdered donut. Trust me, he'll get the reference. And also, with that being said, like I said, I cannot thank everybody enough for going out here and literally helping me by watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And at the same time, how the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. All we're pretty much trying to do at this moment is pretty much bring the whole idea of not accepting everything at face value, to encourage others to go out there and literally find the truth for themselves. Go out there, do your own research, and be able to show what you've seen with someone else in hopes of inspiring them to do the same thing. Because an informed community can make a lot better decisions than an uninformed one, because an uninformed one got us Trump, and that's how the Frack We Got Here. So thank you all again for watching. I certainly appreciate that. Hope to see you a bit later on the rest of our other podcasts. Aside from that, wherever you are, stay dry or stay warm. And thank goodness in Australia, it's finally raining and killing a lot of those bushfires. But again, hopefully those fires will eventually die out and hopefully brings a lot more attention to climate change. But with that being said, guys, I've been Will. The guy in the back has been Thomas. And we do thank you for watching how the Frack We Got Here. We are out.